Okay, hello everybody. We'll give you a few more minutes to join. I know everybody's been really looking forward to this conversation because I think it's so relevant to all of us in motherhood right now. And I'm here with
Mhm.
Kristine. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Kristine, and all your magic.
My name is Kristine McGlinchey Yap. I am an intuitive teacher, an energy healer, and the founder of Oh Mamas, a village for all the things you didn't think you needed to know as a mom.
That deeply resonates. All the things we get into in motherhood that we have no idea that we're going
Yeah,
to be up against or that is going to happen. It's those one of those things that nobody can really prepare you for verbally. And even if they did, I don't know that we could even understand it because there's nothing to compare it to.
yeah. And I think we've talked about this before too, like in this new era of intuitive mothering that we're really being called and stepped into doing. Like we really are like changing all of those old narratives. So it's like, and I joke around with you too. I'm like, oh, my kids have their own energy healer, and as like, funny as that sounds, these little souls, and we need it. Like we need all of the support. And who knew that this stuff existed, right? Like when we were kids, when our parents were, doing it. So I just think it's so interesting because we all need more than we had.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Well, I think with the energy that's shifting right now too, I mean, it's foundational to our success to start integrating these new alternative ways of healing, medicine, herbal remedies, because the frequency is elevating and we're being called to do really big work on ourselves. We're being called inward to look at our traumas and do deep healing, not just for ourselves, but for our entire ancestral lineage. And so it's
Yeah.
really deep work that we're being called to do and that our children are here to do as well because they're so powerful and their purpose work is very, very deep and impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's why, the theme of like finding your flow has been really resonant for me and, so many of my clients and so many mothers and women that I talk to because when I had my daughter 4 years ago, I was a new mom, a new entrepreneur. Like I literally started my business when she was 2 weeks old, and I was so trapped in that masculine paradigm of wake up a certain time every day, work 9 to 5, meetings, meetings, meetings. I was in that paradigm. And
Yeah.
so when suddenly my schedule became my own to create and co create with my daughter, I was like, what is going on? I was so overwhelmed, so like burnt out trying to make things work, right? Because I was thinking, okay, I'm a new mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I need to hustle, I need to multitask. I
Mhm.
remember one moment, I think my daughter was probably like 7 or 8 months old. I was taking a connection call with a potential coach. Like I was going to hire a business coach, and I was feeding the baby at the same time, trying to listen to what she was saying. The baby was getting super irritable, fussy, and she was like, "You know what?" Like she was a mom, and she was like, "You know what? You know, I think that you should just honor my time, and your baby's time by rescheduling." She's like,
Mm.
"Because you are not, respecting me, you're not respecting her, and you're not respecting yourself." And I was like, that was the moment it clicked that I was like, "Oh my God, multitasking is BS." Like here I thought I was being superwoman, right? Because we think like, "Oh, I'm superwoman. I'm going to do 5 things at the same time." And and it's more stressful. Like she gave me permission to be like, "Oh my God, I can do one thing at a time and I could focus completely on that one task," right? And it was so simple, but it was like life changing for me to hear that. Because coming out of the corporate world, I was constantly like, okay, this project, you're wearing all of the hats. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm taking my conference calls, I'm like working on media pitches, I'm doing like juggling all the balls, but it doesn't work
Mhm.
because we get to take it slow. We get to be really mindful. And like, that's how I approach my time and my schedule now. I start really slow in the mornings. I have such a slower pace. And it's like counterintuitive to us who have been trained in this corporate model of like, no, fast, 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 get it
Mm.
done. But I would put the baby down for a nap and I would have 2 hours and I would completely get nothing accomplished in the two
Mhm.
hours because I was scrambling for like, okay, what should I do first? Let me do a little bit of everything. And then nothing would get done.
Mhm.
So then I started realizing if I am so present and I hyper focus on one task at a time, it actually gets done quicker than
Mm.
trying to do everything at once. And I think that's one of the first mistakes that we make is also trying to do everything perfectly. I have
Mhm.
to be the perfect mom, I have to be the perfect business owner. And once you accept that nothing is going to be perfect, that's the first step of finding your flow.
Yes.
And you
Oh,
have
that
5
resonates.
kids. So like
I have
you
4 kids,
have
yeah,
you have
and that's
4.
probably been one of the toughest lessons for me is because I'm kind of a perfectionist myself. And so I
Yes.
have to execute. Everything has to be perfect. And then when you have kids, boy, did I have to reevaluate what perfect looked like for me.
Yes.
It
Yes,
was
we
very
change
painful
our
and hard
relationship.
to let go because you're really having to surrender to the fact that you're not on anyone else's time but their time.
Mhm,
And to find peace in that, but also really be okay with that because
mhm.
ultimately, above all else, I want to be the best mom that I can be. And they all come before work, before everything else. For me, that's a priority. And then finding
Yeah.
peace with making them a priority is, yeah, that was really hard.
Yeah. And so that sense of control, of us being trapped in that masculine structure of no, I didn't generate any results. I didn't produce anything.
Mhm.
So that equates I'm not successful. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough because look, I'm not doing anything, right? So
Mhm.
changing our barometer, the way that we measure success and really grounding into that. Am I being successful? What does success look like for you on a daily, tangible level? Are my
Mhm.
children happy? Are they feeling fulfilled? It's okay that I didn't answer or check every single thing off of my to-do list because my family is happy. I'm happy. And
Mhm.
for a while I had to ground back into my why. Like the whole intention of me leaving my corporate career was so that I could be a present mother. But here I was putting work in front of my family yet again in order to prove something to myself or other people who told me that I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And so that acceptance is huge and it's not going to be perfect. My daughter is going to come into the middle of my calls. My son is going to be knocking on the door, screaming in the background, and not feeling embarrassed, right?
Mhm.
And not feeling like, oh, I can't do this.
Mhm.
And so that's really like coming back to ourselves and accepting the fact that yeah, it's not going to look perfect and what we're really trying to find between us the mother and us the woman is harmony
Mhm.
because also for so long I was looking for balance, right? And it's never going to be 50-50. Like for 4 years I've been trying to find that sweet spot of balance. I have all these plans in my head, right? Like me and my spirit guides, we have so much we want to do, but I wake up in the morning, my children are sick, and guess what? All of those plans are out the window. And so there's
Mhm.
not going to be a balance. There's not going to be a perfectly crafted or executed strategy or plan in place. And but I also find that to be like exciting.
Mhm.
It's like the flow of it is, yes, I have things that I want to do and I want to accomplish and having the boundary between what gets done but also what doesn't because of the needs of ourselves and our children because sometimes too we need to check out, right? We need to be like, you know what? I'm
Mhm.
actually not going to do this today. I'm going to go to a yoga class or I'm going to go to Pilates or I'm going to go get a massage. We also get the choice. And
Absolutely.
that is also a huge part. When we're feeling burnt out, when we're feeling overwhelmed, chances are it's because we're not getting what we need.
Mhm.
And I call these like my non-negotiables. Like, what are
Yeah.
my non-negotiables, right? In one
Mhm.
month, I have a list of non-negotiables. I need to do all of these things because if not, I feel it. Like I need to do my monthly womb steam to just clear and release. I need to get a massage to like create circulation and flow and release all of the tension from my body. I get energy healing. I get Reiki every month. And if I don't do one of those things, I feel it and the family feels it because I'm just like, everyone get away from me. And that's where a lot of the time, like we can say, like, am I getting my needs met? Am I burning myself out? Am I being overwhelmed? And, creating that boundary of, no, we need to do this.
Yeah. I love that, Kristine. So much of that I have been I'm kind of recently touching on too. There's a lot of that. Well, the non-negotiables for me is one that I've been exploring a lot and really trying to hone in on, like, what are the things that are just foundational for making me me so that I can
Yeah,
continue to show up for business, for my children, for my husband, just in life, so that I'm not a shell of a person. Because
totally.
after having the twins and then having another one right after that, for me, I was left as a shell. I had no idea who I was. I felt like
Yeah.
I was just running on fumes and barely surviving. And I want to
Mhm.
thrive. So, what are the things are that are the most important for me to do for myself at this time? And it doesn't have to be really overcomplicated things. It can be something like,
No.
for me, I love having a glass of herbal tea, and that just makes me feel so good. It's comforting, it's calming. And if it's
Yes.
right before bed, after I've gotten all the kids to sleep, and that's my moment where I get to enjoy that tea, that's what fulfills me in that time. And those are the little
Yeah.
things that re energize me and make me feel good and give me something to look forward to as well, because I
Totally.
think that's
Yeah.
so important as a mom, because we can get so caught up in the day-to-day story. And when
Hmm.
we zoom out and we start to look at the things that fuel us, then we can make that story even brighter and more enjoyable for everyone around us.
Yeah.
Another thing that
No.
I feel like has been coming up a lot too is and you kind of touched on this, is the idea of what you should be doing or what it looks like to be a mom, or the narrative of what a mom should feel like, act like, show up as, and we should be doing it all without
Mhm.
any energy or time for ourselves. And
Mhm.
I've experienced this with family members where here recently, I have my great grandmother, she's in her 80s, and she's telling me that the way that I choose to spend my time is not correct. It's not the right way, because traditionally, women should be making sure the house is clean. And I'm the first one who's going to look at the dishes and go, do I need a hot shower or should I clean the dishes? And I'm like digging deep
Totally.
in my soul, and I'm like, I need a hot shower. And so I'm going to
Yes.
choose to do that over doing the dishes, because the dishes
Yeah.
can wait, and that's something I can do later, and it does not fuel my soul and make me feel whole or complete if I'm doing that. A shower will give me the energy so that I can go do the dishes.
Yes. Yeah. And, even as you're talking right now about, like that dynamic, I think it's really important that we also include family members that we might live with and partners on setting some of these boundaries and expectations, not only for us, but also for them. Having a conversation around, this is what really fills me. This is what I need, like you said, like foundational, like this is like my non-negotiable. And, having the conversation of like, what are some of the things that you feel like you need for you? So that we
Mhm.
can both show up and like, what is the family dynamic so that everyone's needs are getting met? Because often it's like, that sacrificial mother archetype that you were
Yes.
speaking to, that, your great grandmother or your grandmother is that we're healing very much ancestrally.
Mhm.
And it's more about like this boundaried mother, the healthy mother, the nourished mother who could come from a much deeper place of like satisfaction and independence. And there's like no guilt and no shame
Mhm.
right away. And everyone tells you all of these negative beliefs and like self-talk, like, oh, you're never going to bathe again and you're never going to sleep again when you become a mom. And I'm like, look, my two things, and to this day, it still is, I will shower every day because that's me time, right? At the end of the day, I will always shower. So someone's watching the kids for at least 10 minutes so that I can get a
Mhm.
shower, right? Minimum.
Mhm.
And I like to enjoy my meals. And not
Mhm.
every meal is going to be sitting down where you get to enjoy it and, like a hot meal, but at least like one meal a day, whether it's dinner or whatever. And so if for some reason like the kids aren't feeling like having dinner together because they're still young, so sometimes like their meal schedules might be earlier than ours, my husband will eat first and to allow me time to like have my hot meal
Mhm.
uninterrupted or vice versa. We'll take shifts. And those things, like you said, are huge, huge
Mhm.
for me. And some people might say like, "Oh, that sounds silly," or but it's not, because
Mhm.
these are the ways that we replenish ourselves, and these are the way that we honor ourselves. And the more that we are honoring ourselves, the more we honor our family, and we teach our kids that, look, your needs are important.
Mhm.
Your needs are important, but also ours are. Because I'm sure, like, as you were saying, like the ancestral cycles, like when I look at my mom and my aunts and my family, they weren't honoring any of their needs, and it shows, because it shows in the way that I was parented. It shows in the limiting beliefs and the guilt that I felt coming into motherhood.
Mhm.
And like you said, like we don't have time to like continue those cycles. Like let them go already.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting because at that moment in time when this conversation came up with my grandmother, I naturally lean towards teaching. So I'm like, oh, this could be a teaching moment for her, you know? So I'm like, actually, we have mental health problems that run in our family and especially on like a feminine divine level. And I
Mm,
have it on my dad's side and my mom's side. And
wow.
so I am innately aware of the mental wellness and the lack of care that these women have taken for themselves because they felt like they had to show up and serve and they served
Mm,
so greatly that there was nothing left for themselves. And then at
mm,
the end of the day, they ended up collapsing and not being able to serve anyone. And so
yeah.
everyone was let down, and there was so much hurt within the family, friendships, for themselves. And so that for me has been one of the greatest lessons of the importance of something that we call self care. But really,
Mm.
it's not care, it's just being human because we are only human as mothers and we require certain necessities. And something like a massage is not necessarily a luxury. We have to take care of our bodies because this is
Mm-hmm.
the only one that we're going to have to be able to show up and serve these missions that are so important that God gave us.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And we want to maximize our efficiency, right? But
Mhm.
also without minimizing our presence with our children.
Love
So
that.
to me, it's always about how can I be more efficient, but also how can I make sure that I'm fully present with my kids. So when
Mhm.
I'm not working, I'm not on my phone. Like I don't want them to see me like on my phone. And as much as I can, right? There's going to be times where family members are calling and I'm going to have to be on my phone or I'm going to be responding to something. But more than not, I'm not on my phone, I'm not answering anything, and I'm really reserving my time and the way that I structure my days, especially too, to being on devices during my working hours. And then when I'm not working, it's like we're outside, we're playing, we're like dancing, we're singing, and giving ourselves the permission to do that as well. Because a lot of my clients are like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like constantly running around. And
Mhm.
slow down. It's because there's this narrative or there's this belief that you are perpetuating, like the cycle of I have to be showing up one way. And when we remember that, oh no, we could completely do things differently. We can like,
Mhm.
you know, and that was another thing, like becoming an entrepreneur and a first time mom is like my schedule. When am I working? When am I not working? Because it's easy for those lines to be blurred, as I'm sure like you
Oh yeah.
experience too. And so um I'll work like 4 hours a day, like between 10 and 2.
Mhm.
And I take my lunch with my kids to have a break in between. And Mondays and Fridays, I don't take any calls because I leave it open. Mondays, I'm usually just like visualizing for the week ahead or like planning. I like to leave like bookend my week
Mhm.
to leave like more room too for like family. And then Fridays, it's like um collaboration, catching up on emails, anything that I didn't really get to do that I feel will help the energy of the business. And I just leave it like a spontaneous day. Sometimes we'll go to the park, we'll start our weekend early. And I'll ask the kids, like, is there something that you want to do today? Or like, include them in the plans too, so that they feel special and that they have like a say in
Mhm.
something that they want to do.
Yeah.
And I find like, that time management and that structure is where a lot of people get like in their heads about because they're like, oh, well, I have to work from like 9 to 5 or whatever. And it's like, no, you could schedule if you wanted to work evenings, work evenings. Like I personally am not a night person. I
Mhm.
am a morning person. So at nighttime, it's like I just want to be in bed. I just want to like be relaxing. But if you're a person who loves being up at night, then schedule your stuff for nighttime, when the kids are sleeping. Like I know a lot of women too who like schedule podcast interviews at night. They'll be recording at like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, all right, if that's what works for you, you know?
Totally. Yes. Yeah, I love that. I've been talking a lot about funneling my time because as a mom, I don't have, well, we homeschool, so my schedule is very
Mhm.
fluid.
Yeah.
And Tuesdays are my days to work. My mom takes all of our kids and then she gets to have fun with them, takes them to the park.
Oh,
And I know they're super supported and they have friends down there now in her neighborhood, which is so beautiful. And then I get that day to work and focus on the things that I need to do without kids.
yeah.
And then throughout the rest of the week, we have a gym that has a daycare. And so that's where we are right now. I worked out before this, took a quick shower, and then ran out to the car. And I think that kind of parallels that you can't be perfect all the time, but showing up is what's most important. As long
Yeah.
as you do it, and you're completing a task. It doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be beautiful to make an impact and to connect with people. And I think
Yeah.
for me, that's been one of the greatest lessons in this time funneling too, is that I find my pockets of time that work. And I know that I may not show up and have my hair done, it may be wet. I may not look super cute, but the word is getting out there, like my mission is being accomplished, and in the grand scheme of things, if this doesn't work for you or if the way that I show up doesn't feel like a good fit for you, it probably isn't. So
Mm,
I know that my community of mothers are the ones who are doing this too, and they're showing up in this way. And I want to give them permission to know that it's okay to not be perfect all the time, but as long as you're putting your energy towards what you feel like is your sole purpose, the things that really fulfill you, and the places where you feel really inspired, that's what's important. The
yeah.
small little things that we're spending time on, and then at the end of the day, too tired to put energy towards our sole purpose work, that's when we're getting it wrong.
Yeah. And I will say this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but like a lot of the reason like I felt called to serve in like the motherhood space too is it feels very defeating to like see pictures online of like the perfect house and the perfect mom and the perfect family where everyone's like dressed so nicely because it's like it creates this illusion of oh this is what families are supposed to look like and my family doesn't look like this so then I'm failing
Yeah.
and it's this like the toxicity of social media showing motherhood as this like
mm,
dynamic of like, an illusion of like this perfectly happy, curated life. And, there's pockets of it. There's pockets of, motherhood is beauty in all aspects of it. And, there
mm,
are like those picture perfect moments of motherhood. But if you are following someone who's only displaying like that aspect of it, I think there's a lot of toxicity in it.
mm,
There's like this expectation that motherhood should present a certain way, as you were saying.
mm,
And I feel like a lot of women are wanting the validation or the permission of like, oh, like this is actual like real life motherhood. Like this is what women are actually doing. Like this is, and of course everyone wants like a perfectly curated photo or like
absolutely.
playroom or like whites and pastels and like, but I don't know, like our house looks like a wrecking ball, most days like came in through. It's like at the end of the day, I clean up all the toys. By morning, it's like there's blocks everywhere.
Mhm.
I don't know how many times I have to vacuum and mop throughout the day because our son
Yes.
is just constantly crushing food up and like storing it places and like rubbing blueberries all over the tile. So I'm like, sometimes it's okay to also show that because it's like we start to think like, oh, what's wrong with me or what's wrong
Mm,
with my family?
mhm,
And it's like there's nothing wrong. It's actually really normal. But, don't get caught up in like that social media appearance. And I think,
mm,
the purpose for those women too is to show the beauty and the cleanliness and the, you
mhm,
know, but if you're someone who's like getting caught up in that and comparing yourself or your
mm,
experience to that, just know that, social media presents one way. Like there's many aspects of that person or that family that were not being shown. And so
right.
sometimes it's like that reality TV syndrome, right? Of like, oh, this is
Mhm,
real life and it's not.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that another important thing to speak about what's going on behind the scenes is what kind of support system does that mother have
Yeah.
that isn't being
Yeah.
shown?
True.
Because I know for me, my support system is minimal, and so it's pretty
Mhm.
much me showing up for my kids. My husband has to work, and I have to try to figure out how I can balance and manage my time while doing these things. And I love being with my kids. It's my priority. It inspires me and it feels so good and fulfilling to be with them, but I also feel equally as fulfilled working with mothers and giving them permission to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
finding the balance there, while I balance for me is definitely not 50-50, it's just where it works. Balance for me is doesn't mean that it's like a teeter-totter and everything is even. It just means at that point in time, what slice of the pie is being fulfilled that day, and the rest of it is filled with family. And that's balance for me. And that's enough.
Yeah.
If it works and you feel good about it, then that's okay. And if you don't
Yeah.
have that support system that somebody who does on social media or somebody on TV does, that's okay too, because all of this messiness is just part of kids being kids. This is part of
Mhm.
that learning for them. If things were clean all the time, I personally wouldn't feel good about how the day went because it would be too constrictive. There's too many boundaries. You can't make a mess over here. When I
Yeah.
see messes happening, I know that play has happened. I know that they're learning, they're interacting with each other, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it also. I remember I was talking to a client and she's like, "Oh, but I need to do the laundry. I have to do this. Like, I don't have time for my business." And, not that all of us are going to be entrepreneurs, right? Because this could be for like women who are corporate professionals or
Mhm.
within another organization working for someone else.
Absolutely.
But we feel like, well, I don't have time to have fun. I don't have time to take the kids out or spend quality time with them because when I'm not working, then I have to wash the dishes, do laundry and that's also about prioritizing, right? And
Mhm.
also giving ourselves permission to be supported and to ask for the support.
Mhm.
There was a time where, my family was going through, this heavy period and I was also watching my niece and nephew. So I had 4 kids all alone
Mhm.
and that was a learning lesson for me because I'm like, all right, Annika, I don't know how you did it because I was like, I don't want to have to be the sole, um, like, how do I put it? Like, I definitely did not want to run and manage a household completely by myself. Like, that was
Right.
clear. And that
Hmm.
included making 3 meals a day for 4
Hmm.
children. That included, cleaning up after them, bathing all of the kids at the end of the day, like, literally putting them all to bed. I was like, what is easy is taking care of the children. I just want
Hmm.
to pour all my love and attention on these children, but when I start having to, like, worry about meals and clean up after them, and I actually I love bath time, but it's like all the other things, like all of the responsibilities and all the duties. I'm like, no, if someone was cooking meals, if someone was taking care of the household, right? And I
Yeah.
was just pouring my love and attention into these children, nurturing and providing for them, I would be fulfilled. Like, I
Hmm.
realized, like, I don't enjoy that. Like, that multitasking again, that push and pull, because that's where I was getting overwhelmed. I was getting frustrated and I was getting burnt out. Like, literally, I had a moment of like, no, someone needs to come help me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, something is
Hmm.
about to give because now I am like so impatient. The kids
Hmm.
aren't getting my time, energy, and respect because at this point, I'm just like so burnt out
Yeah.
that I can't even handle like them. Because,
Absolutely.
for children, every someone always wants something.
Oh yeah.
And that's totally acceptable if you have other people around providing meals and cleaning the house, but like to be doing it completely on your own. And for the women who do and actually, and enjoy and are like, no, that lights me up. Like, I love running a household, then that's beautiful. But for me, that was
Hmm.
an acknowledgement that no, if this was how I had to move forward, I would need a meal planning service. I would need like a nanny or someone to come help me, like clean the house like a couple days a week. That was me being like, okay, what does my support look like? What is my village? Like, if I was to do this alone.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And
No,
and
that's
I
so good.
think, there's simple ways that we don't even give ourselves that opportunity to think of, like, oh, maybe it would help if I had a housekeeper or a
Yep.
nanny come once a week, because we feel like, oh, that makes us weak, that makes us look bad. But
Yes.
then to me, it's like, well, you're providing an opportunity for someone who enjoys and who loves that to like be resourced. Like,
Hmm.
let the people who enjoy doing it, like, support them, right? And
Yep.
supporting another small business, another mom, or someone who actually enjoys doing that and makes a living and like thrives off of that,
Hmm.
support them and let yourself be
Absolutely.
supported. But I think sometimes we're like, oh, if I have to hire someone else, then, that makes me a bad mom. But it's like, no, that makes you a good mom because you're recognizing that
Mm.
this is not your zone of genius. This is not
Yeah.
where you feel comfortable.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. One other for me too, we had when the kids were really young, we had nannies because we had the twins and then 14 months later had another one. So we had basically three babies at the same time. And then my husband, he works in agriculture. So he owns his own business, which means that he could be working at the time when I gave birth, he was working 18 hours a day and it was crazy. And so luckily we found somebody that felt like a really good fit. She came in, she helped us, and it was night and day because I was able to get some sleep. I was able to feel
Mm.
human again. And then feeling human again led to the house feeling a little bit better. It's about the energy in the house too, because when you're feeling so tapped out, so drained, and you just keep showing up for everyone else, you're then laying a foundation of energy in your home that isn't stable.
Yeah.
It's actually it can be really unbalancing and uncomfortable for the children because they're plugged into your energy and your state of being. And so when
Mm.
you're walking around your house and you're taking care of your home, you're also reorganizing the energy in that place. And so when you're cleaning your
Mm.
child's room and if you're feeling resentful and angry and upset, you're laying that energy in their room. And then when you're going over to your dishes and you're doing the dishes in that way, you're laying that foundation of energy in your kitchen. And then if you're
Wow.
resentful while you're cooking dinner, you're pouring that energy into your dinner. And so
Yeah.
all of this is so it's just so foundational to our wellness, the energy aspect
Mm,
of it too, taking care of ourselves so that we aren't approaching our home in this way, so that we can set a happy, peaceful foundation in our home. And then everybody feels nourished when they come inside. Because when you enter into that energy space, you feel irritated or aggravated, people will start to pick up on it. And whether
mm,
you're empathic or not, energy affects you. And this will change your family drastically if you can
yeah.
care for yourself and lay the foundation of peace and harmony in your home.
That is such a great reminder. That is so true. Like the way that yeah, yeah, the energy that we put into everything. That's such a great reminder.
Mhm. Yeah. It's for me, that was something that now I'm super aware of because I have four very sensitive children, and one of them, well, two of them particularly, are wildly sensitive to energy, but one of them's still very connected to mama. And she helps me. She's like my mirror, and she'll say things, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really glad you caught that. Thank you. Self
Mm,
correct. Or
yeah.
she's super psychic, so she'll say things that I've been thinking. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're picking up on that too. So it's a constant reminder to keep me in the energy of goodness and to feel
Mm,
good. And
yeah.
so in the morning times, the gym for me is like I have to work out. I have to move my body because it
Hmm.
helps me clear energy. Otherwise, I tend to hold on to it and it feels really stuck, heavy, and dense. And so I'll
Yeah.
make that time to move and get that energy out. And then I feel like a clear vessel and I can handle a lot. And I'm ready to take on these wild children.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, for new moms who, might not be as possible to do things like that, right?
Hmm.
It's in like the talk, like the self-talk. It's in like these simple
Hmm.
moments as having a cup of tea. It's in I'm gonna like go outside with the baby. I'm gonna take the baby for a walk. Doing some of
Hmm.
those things are very nurturing. Like with my daughter, I love that. Like that was one thing that really grounded me is like being able to take her for a walk around the lake in our neighborhood. She would like fall asleep in the stroller and then I'd have time to like sit under a tree and to like write and to like enjoy like those little moments, because there's so many seasons to motherhood. And so really being present with every day. Every day is something new. There's so many different seasons of motherhood and they really are temporary.
Hmm.
So, just when we think we found our flow and like we have a really good schedule, it's going to change because our children are getting older and it's like we're constantly checking in like, okay, what's working for me now? What doesn't? Like what can I let go of? What can I incorporate? So having all of these tools and having, being open to that. And again, like that acceptance of things are always going to be shifting. So what feels really good, what feels really supportive to me right now, instead of like always trying to control it and come from a place of, that perfection.
Yes, that's beautiful. Beautiful reminder, Christine. I love that. For the for the new moms, I think the messages for new moms is like I think a few takeaways from this conversation that you've pointed out is that there's going to be a moment where you learn that you just have to surrender
Hmm.
to the season. And the more that you push, the I guess the push energy is where you can actually recognize that it doesn't feel good. And so if you're having to push too hard to do something in that early season of motherhood where you're still nursing your baby, you're waking up all night long, and you are the main provider of life for your child at that time, know that that's okay and find peace in that being enough because it's so important for your child to get that time with you, to be nursing, to be held by you, to be sleeping by you, whatever it is that you choose to do with them, however you choose to mother them, that is enough at that time. And that's what you're meant to do. So,
Yeah.
expecting you to do more or show up better, be pulled together, have everything clean, and also still be healing your own body from birth is
Mm.
just not conducive to the well-being of a mother. And
Yeah.
then in that perspective, you're like the tree of life for your child. And so if you're not able to feel good and you're feeling like you're having to push yourself or you're feeling more exhausted by showing up in a greater way at that time when it just isn't meant to be, then you can't give your child what it is that they're needing. And that
Mhm.
peaceful time is, oh my gosh, those were some of my favorite moments with my
Yeah.
children, is just
Mhm.
healing in bed and just holding them and cherishing every little baby movement, their fingers, their twitching and their sleeping, because those moments are so just ooey gooey and precious and they don't last very long. So
Yeah.
yeah, my note to mothers in that new season is really trying to work on your mindset and finding peace in those moments and really connecting to your
Yeah.
child because that's what's most important.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Yeah, enjoy those
Absolutely.
little snuggles because soon they'll be
Yeah.
walking, talking, and running as far away from you as they can.
And smishing blueberries in your tile.
Smushing blueberries all over the house. Oh man. Yeah. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So it's, yeah, really giving yourself permission to do things differently and to like
Mm.
throw the rule book out the window every
Yes.
day.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Yeah, there is no rule book anymore, you guys. It's all being rewritten, and something that I hold is that this world, this earth, is a different earth than it used to be when we were being raised, when our parents were being raised. So when you start to feel the pressure of society, whether that's your parents, your in laws, to show up in a certain way, just find peace in knowing that this is a different world and that you
Yeah.
can't possibly show up the same way that they did because that's not what you're meant to do. That's not why you were called here on earth at this time. It's not why you had your
Yeah.
baby at this time. You guys have a completely different mission to fulfill together. And
Mhm.
so, whatever feels good to you, follow that. That's what's most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Christine. This has been so powerful. I just love meeting with you and sharing our wisdom, motherhood wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Christine, where can we find you? We want to work with you.
So, yeah, you could find me on my website, christinemcglenchie.com, also on Instagram, Christine_McGlenchie. And I actually have a book called Mantras for Mindful Moms. And I wrote it when my daughter was 9 months old. And it's basically just a really simple book that you can just flip through, turn to receive an affirmation, a mantra, and a little bit of encouragement. Like I wrote
Mm,
this book for me, essentially, and
mm,
like felt so called to just self-publish it. So I self-published it, and yeah, it's just been a beautiful companion for a lot of women on their motherhood journeys. It's like the
mm,
reminder that you need on those tough days when you find yourself in like self-defeating thoughts.
mm.
And so yeah, I invite you to check it out. A link is on my website to the book, and yeah, just wishing you peace on your journey.
Oh, thanks, Christine. I'll make sure I share the link too in the email that shares this recording. Well, thank you so much, Christine, and thank you everyone who
Thank
enjoys
you.
this. And I look forward to connecting with you all in the future.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.